Former poet laureate of Colorado, Andrea Gibson of blessed memory, recalled last year, "Do you remember how our childhood joy was born from all that we did not know, the answers we did not yet have, how exploration was the source of our excitement? As a kid, curiosity was my life's blood. I glowed with it. The questions themselves were magic. I lived in what I now call the land of I don't know. It is the sacred land of children, yes, but it is a land we'd all be best served to never outgrow." However, Andrea noted that after a while and for a while, Andrea did seemingly outgrow the sacred landscape of curiosity and questions and came to a new land of knowing. Andrea noticed during that time, most impactful was the fact that my rightness wiped out the curiosity, wonder, and awe that was the pillar of my joy as a child. But as most of us do, I lived with an attachment to being right for years. Ah, yes, being attached to being right because we know lots of things can feel empowering and thus comforting, right? But then something changed for Andrea. When I woke up from the surgery that diagnosed me with cancer, I felt instantly returned to the land of I do not know. My rightness, my knowing, fell off me like a heavy, burdensome coat. Andrea's cancer diagnosis was a cataclysmic shift in their life, one Andrea wrestled with and greeted with so much courage and vulnerability, from which they shared so much in their writing. But for those of us not living with such a dire diagnosis, I hope, we still, I think, understand in our own ways the land of I don't know. These times that we are living in, wow, I don't know about so many things. The biggest things that really matter and the things that don't, about things today and about things next week, about things in this new year, about things 100 years from now. We are perpetually in the not knowing. And as Andrea explains, this was how we were born, how we were made from the very beginning. I remember this in myself, in my children, and in particular with one of my son's friends when he was 3 years old. Andy asked about everything. Why does the washing machine spin? Why is ketchup red? Why should I nap? Do ravens nap? Are butterflies related to fairies? How tall do spruce trees grow? Why do spruce trees make spruce cones? Why is it called gravity? He asked so many questions, and I at times tired of them, but I also adored him for it and was amazed by his endless curiosity. And now he's an engineer. On Rosh Hashanah, I spoke about children ever becoming. Integral to this idea of ever becoming is not yet knowing. One of the points of childhood is to acquire knowledge and learn skills, to be in a perpetual state of wonder, curiosity, and questioning. We as grown-ups encourage this in our children, and especially do so in Judaism, as seen with the 4 questions at our Passover Seders. There's even an old Jewish custom of rewarding every question asked at the Seder with a treat. As good and sweet as questions and curiosity are, I admit that right now I'm finding it really hard to not know. I don't know what will be for our country, for the immigrants, for the project of democracy and our Constitution, for our trans and non-binary youth. I don't know what will be for Israel and for Gaza, with the hostages, with the war, with so many innocents at risk and dying. How will this end and be resolved? Can there be peace? I don't know what will be for our warming earth or the next fire season here in Southern Oregon. And I don't know what will be for my health or that of my loved ones, because that we can never know. The list is long with some worrisome and heavy not knowings. I actually talked about not knowing last year during the High Holy Days, because how can it not come up on these holiest of days where the rabbis have us sing this liturgical poem, the Unatana Tokef, which asks, who will live and who will die? Big questions. And yes, also little questions are indeed ever present, even for, maybe especially for, grown-ups. In reading recently about not knowing, I was reminded about the Talmud, a central Jewish text that guides us in living our Jewish lives. And the Talmud begins with a question. Me'emetai korin et shema ba'aravin? From when does one say the Shema in the evening? The answer is very long. It goes on 4 pages. And guess what it includes? More questions. The Talmud, you see, is filled with questions and also many answers that actually contain even more questions about anything and everything, but it begins from the place of not knowing. And when I think about that, I feel like, phew, I'm not alone. Rabbi Stephen Moskovitz lifts up a further example, looking at the rabbis exploring what constitutes a meal so that we can then bless it after eating it. The majority of the rabbis answer, kazayit, an olive's worth. A meal is an olive. On the surface, this is of course an absurd response. 1 olive is not a meal, and yet they argued that we nonetheless say a blessing when eating such a small and unsatisfactory amount. Rabbi Moskovitz explains the comfort of such an unexpected ruling. We affirm and thank God for the imperfect, for the unsatisfying, for the incomplete. We say a blessing even when we are still hungry. Not knowing is like being hungry. It is a state of being incomplete and can feel uncomfortable. And Judaism says it's okay, and we're still encouraged to bless even this. Right now, in our annual Torah cycle, our people are standing on the edge of the promised land, about to enter with all the unknowns before them, real or imagined. So too tonight, we are like our ancestors on the edge of our homecoming as our teshuvah, which means to return, culminates on Yom Kippur. And you could say that many of us are on the edge of our seats regarding the outcome of all that we do not yet know as we gather tonight and look ahead. In the Torah, we read last Shabbat that Moses tells us, Chizku ve'imtzu al tir'u, ki Adonai Elohecha hu ha'cholech imach. Be strong and courageous. Be not in fear or dread, For it is indeed your God Adonai who marches with you. God will not fail or forsake you. I'm reminded of when the 12 spies were sent ahead to check out the promised land. 10 of the 12 spies came back reporting about seeing giants that would surely devour us, awaiting us in our promised future. But 2 of the spies, Joshua and Caleb, feared not. Maybe Joshua and Caleb did not see the giants because they were looking the other way, and so they didn't see everything completely. Or maybe they were in denial. But more likely, and our sages agree, that they saw all of it and they thought, all will be okay anyway. God will be with us. We will not be alone. And we will choose not to focus on fear. We choose instead to see all the other abundance that is there. To think and feel and focus in this way, Joshua and Caleb not only demonstrated faith, I believed they showed chozek, strength, and ometz, courage. And I want to be like Joshua and Caleb. I want to see what is hard and not look away, and to see what is simultaneously beautiful and bountiful. I want to believe in all that is God acting with me and through me in the world. And I want to be like the sages of our tradition, to be in their good company asking questions, and likewise finding blessing, even in the uncomfortable incompleteness and vulnerability of lacking answers. And I want to be like 3-year-old Andy and little poet-to-be Andrea, curious and questioning with wonder and joy. Andrea Gibson quotes poet Mark Nepo, who said, "Once we admit we are not sure where life is taking us, then we are ripe for transformation." And so, my friends, I don't know if world leaders will make the best decisions for the highest good. I do not know if there will be peace. I do not know what will happen to each of us as we navigate our embodied beings. But may we, with all that we uncomfortably do not know, and despite and because of our differences, and working alone and together, may we bring about all the goodness possible for our health, for our country, for our world, and the Holy Land. May we be blessed because of our vulnerability. May we honor our unanswered questions. May we hold on to the sweet curiosity of little Andy and the wonder of poet Andrea Gibson and the courage and the strength of Joshua and Caleb to make possible some transformation for ourselves and for the world. Chizku v'imsu v'lo tiru. Be strong, be courageous, and be not afraid. Kol halam kulo gasher tsar meod, gasher tsar meod, gasher tsar meod. Kol halam kulo gasher tsar meod, gesher tsar meod. Ve'ha'ikar, ve'ha'ikar, lo lefached klal. Ve'ha'ikar, ve'ha'ikar, lo lefached klal. The whole world is indeed a very narrow bridge, but the important thing is not to merge with our fear. May it be so. Gemar Chatima Tova.